I'm Nick Nash, longtime friend of Pinnacle's, longtime musician. I've been making music for about 8 years. Producer and songwriter, recently got into songwriting, and I'm working on a lot of cool projects right now, including one with this guy, Kodoku.
My name's Kodoku. I've been making music for about 6 years. Also, I've been working with Nick for about 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Bet. Yeah, man. I mean, there's so much I want to say, but first of all, Kodoku, are you from Raleigh as well?
Yes, I am. I'm actually from Cary, right next to Raleigh.
Same.
Bet.
That's also where I'm from. I just tell people.
Oh, okay, bet.
LA or Canada knows where. From.
Yeah, I see you. Yeah, man. I mean, for me, like I always tell Nick this, but so many people that I know, like a lot of talented dudes, even outside of music, just dudes I know in business and all kinds of other areas that are successful. They seem to be from right around that area. I don't know why. It's so weird to me, but it's like I want to just visit just for that reason. Yeah, man. And let me just start off. So you said you were making music for about a year or two before you met, or before you started working with Nick. How did you guys link? How did you guys come across each other? And tell me kind of how that worked and what happened from there.
So I first started making music with my brother. My brother was he just started making beats, and I was like, "Fuck it, I'll rap on them." And that was, we were just making music for fun. And then after about a year, I was like, I kind of want to build a career off of this, but I wasn't too sure about it. But I was just trying to work with different producers, and one of my boys, Cash introduces me to Nick, and me and Cash both go over to Nick's house, and that was the first time we ever met. The vibes were immaculate, I was just super excited to be there, and then one of my boys, Abel, Maasho, pulled up, and we made a song together, and that was the first song we ever made. It was a shit song, but just happy to be there for. That's how we ended up.
And when you say, so when you say Cash, is it Cash Paradox that we're talking about right now?
Yes, that is Cash Paradox.
Dope. That's awesome, man. And I didn't know you and Maasho had a song together. I assume it's not out right now, or yeah.
Oh, it did come out, but it got deleted because we both improved exponentially. And
you said, from the get, like the vibes were just immaculate. Is that something that, I ask a lot of artists this and producers too, but is that something that, like, for example, let's say the session didn't go as planned. Like, is it something that's crucial for you that when you step in the studio or a session or around people, that the energy, if it's good, you're going to stick to it? If it's not there, like, would you give it more of a chance? Do you know what I mean? Or are there ways you can kind of, work with that? Or if the energy is not really there, you're like, all right, I'm out.
Back then I used to, if the energy wasn't good or the vibes weren't there, I would still go back just because of the fact that, I was there for the music. I really just wanted to make music. But at this point, at where I'm at, the vibes and energy is very important in a studio session. If I can't vibe with the producer and we can't get a solid workflow going, I don't think music can be made. So I usually just try to stay away from that environment.
One of the things that I actually wanted to touch with Nick on is, tell me, I mean, you don't have to go into details because obviously I don't know anything about the details, but are you permanently moved from LA to North Carolina right now?
I mean, I don't want to use the word permanently necessarily, because who knows, I may move back when I'm like 45 and married with family and whatnot. But like, I would like to spend the rest of my life in Raleigh, North Carolina. There's maybe a slight chance that I would consider something like Nashville. I've got a lot of friends over there, and I love the music scene over there as well. But for the foreseeable future, definitely Raleigh.
Beautiful. And what is it like? What's the reasoning behind that move? Again, as much as you want to go into it.
So originally when I had moved out to LA, it was never going to be like a permanent thing. Like I was open to the idea of it being a permanent thing, but in all likelihood, I was like, okay, I'm gonna move out here for a year or two, and then just see what I can do with these in-person studios and see how much it really benefits me, and then probably move back when I'm like more comfortable and I can just be like a bedroom producer more or less, and I can have those connections I can send loops to and things like that. And I already had my community in Raleigh of artists that I was working with, like him and all the other people, Jeb, Marco, all of them.
Yeah.
And so my lease had come up and I wasn't quite ready to move, so I ended up moving Jeb out there with me. And then after about 6 months, he had a reason he had to move home, which that's his business. But basically, I was kind of faced with the decision. I had been in LA for about 18 months at that point, and I was like, okay, now I either need to find a roommate that I barely know, or like try and convince somebody that I do know to move in with me, and like go through a whole lot of stress to like make that work out, or pay double rent, which would have been like $2,900 a month in LA. I was not going to do that. So I was just like, I think moving home is my best option here. I don't really love this city. I didn't hate it either, but I do love Raleigh. So I was like, okay, I did what I needed to do. It's time to come back home to North Carolina.
That makes total sense, man. And with all the skill sets you picked up and everything, all the connections, let alone all everything you learned in LA, I feel like bringing it right back to Raleigh is a huge benefit to you and everybody that you'd be working with there. Let's start with also Kodoku's side. Like you're starting to work with more producers, you're starting to get in more studio sessions and collaborate with people. How much of this was done alone? Because I again, a lot of artists have asked me to have other artists on the podcast, and I feel like, again, you're a very good example of an artist that you did so many things right and continue to do so many things right when it comes to marketing, social media, your presence, all of it. How much, kind of take me from the beginning, but also how much time did you spend doing this alone versus you were kind of always collaborating with people? Like where was the balance there?
It was about a year or a little over a year where I only stuck to myself with my brother and a few of my friends, but we weren't really, or they weren't really taking music seriously. We were just making songs together, type of thing. But with other artists, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Darius King, but yeah, Darius was, I think, one of the first artists / friends that I've worked with making a song together. And yeah, it went from that to I got put on Promoting Sounds on their channel. And then a bunch of artists started hitting me up. And that's when I started, actually being able to work with other very talented artists. And yeah, I was doing that for a while, maybe 2 years or something like that. And then when TikTok started going up, I was really, really focused on having songs with just me on it, just to build my brand solid, just me. So I stopped collaborating with a lot of people, other than Darius King.
Spazzy.
And Spazzy. I would always make songs with them no matter what. They're my boys. So, but yeah, even now I rarely collaborate with anybody because I'm still focused on making this my brand very solid.
Yeah, I don't think we have any features out with anyone other than Darius.
Wow.
On Spotify right now.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, that's really interesting. I have a lot of artists that they get into this zone of I need to do, everything myself super early on. And, I always try to tell them there's huge benefits to that. But at the same time, you also need to be careful. Like I see some artists that try to do too much on their own, especially starting out, not even, some of them will try to and again, I have nothing against it, making their own beats and stuff, but I see that it kind of slows down the process. When if they had just focused on maybe the artist side first. And it's kind of interesting how you said you were kind of doing it with your brother for a bit, with your boys, started to collaborate more after Promoting Sounds, and now you're kind of refocused on your brand specifically. Talk to me a little bit about TikTok as well. Because that's where I think I first came across more of your stuff. I don't remember exactly how long ago it was, but you were just going in on TikTok, it seemed, So talk to me about that. How deliberate was it, or were you just kind of feeling it out and it just kind of happened as you worked through it?
With TikTok at first, I absolutely hated it. Hated making videos. Didn't want to do any of that corny stuff. Making skits and like stuff like that. I was like, what the fuck? Hell no. Cause like, I had friends back then and I didn't want to look all corny and stuff in front of them. But the guy who's my manager at the moment, Cam, before he became my manager, he was telling me like, right, TikTok is the wave. You got like, please just try making one video, just one video. So eventually, I caved in. I was like, all right, I'll make a skit. It just happened to be that first skit was the Hennessy skit, my first big song on TikTok.
And he texted me right after he made this song, and it was just like, I'm going to make this song blow up on TikTok.
Yeah,
like, not even a question back.
Yeah, I remember putting it up on Snapchat, and I was like, yep, this is going straight to TikTok. Like, that was the first song where I was like, all right, yeah, this is a TikTok song.
He posted the same skit, I think, 4 times. Just like no difference, the same exact video. And then the 4th time, it just randomly blew up. I remember I was in one of those studio sessions on like the Sunday sessions for Viral. And they were making a song or whatever. And I was just on TikTok on my phone refreshing his page. And I was like, guys, every time I refresh it, there's another 1,000 views here.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yo.
That was a crazy moment. And I don't know if anybody knows this other than the people close to me, but I was supposed to join the military, and I got my physical and all the paperwork done. And then 3 weeks before 3 or 4 weeks before I was supposed to leave, TikTok started blowing up, and I ghosted all my I ghosted my recruiter, ghosted all of the military people, and I asked my parents for a chance to prove myself, live in a crib and just focus on music. Mm-hmm. And they allowed me to do so. So, I took that risk and kept pushing with it. And that led to exactly where I'm at right now.
Wow. Okay, that's fire. All of that is super, super interesting. Let's start a little bit with that TikTok. You reposted the skit a few times. Did you delete, like, kind of take me through that process and also your thought process behind that? Because I've heard that very recent. I think I heard like 2 days ago someone was talking about how they repost a lot of their content and it blows up, the 3rd or 4th time that they do it.
I spent a lot of time on that skit. So I was like, nope, I'm not going outside like this. Because it was getting like 200 views. It's like, nope, can't go out like this. So there wasn't really no thought process behind it other than I'm going to keep reposting this until something maybe happens.
He doesn't really have thoughts.
Yeah, I don't really think like that. But yeah, just kept taking them down, reposting them, taking them down, reposting it. And eventually on the 4th day, it hit 1 million views out of nowhere.
And sorry, did you say you took it down and then posted it again?
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
I'm not sure how the algorithm works nowadays, but I think people don't take down their videos. I think they keep them up and still repost it again.
I've seen that.
I think I've seen that work a lot of times pretty recently, actually.
Very interesting. Wow, man. Okay, so this... And actually, who produced Hennessy? Was it you, Nick?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I figured. Okay. Did you guys, like, was that a beat you had just kind of made and you sent over, or was that created together in the studio?
I made the sample and I sent it over to him, and then he put this TikTok snippet out on just the sample. There was no beat, and then we were like, shoot, we got to drop this in 2 weeks, like while the hype is still here. So then we like got on a bunch of FaceTime calls and just like tweaked it and we kind of did the drums together. I did like a couple versions at first and like sent him. He picked one to work on more.
Yeah, there was like 12 different versions of Hennessy before it got dropped.
Wow. And so that process of like Nick doing a bunch of different, variations of the drums. Did you guys do that all through like FaceTime or whatever? Like you
Yeah, I
weren't.
was in LA. He was in Cary at the time.
Mm. Yeah, that's something that I see more and more people are trying to do these remote, collaborations and make them work kind of the same way that it would be as if they were together. So that's really cool that you guys were able to throw that song together when you weren't actually in the same studio. Talk to me also about striking kind of when the iron's hot. Like, I know it's a cliche, but that really is important in the music space. And I myself have been guilty multiple times of not doing that. Is that something that you've noticed, like, that you've done a lot of? Because it does seem like, especially with this TikTok thing, once a hype starts to build, or a certain video starts to get a certain amount of views, do you guys capitalize off that right away? Usually,
Yes, that would be the ideal plan. But it doesn't always go as planned because things happen in life, and sometimes focus is thrown off. And that did happen a few times for me. When the hype was all the way up there, the song drops, and then I just didn't promote it anymore just because I was feeling some type of way or something like that. But yeah, it would definitely be the most important thing, I'd say. To If the hype's there, you have no choice but to, you know, you should have no choice but to keep building from that. And I made that mistake, and I deeply regret it because if I hadn't made that mistake, I'd probably be way further in my career right now.
yeah.
But things happen, we learn, and I won't make that mistake again.
Absolutely. And talk to me a little bit about the military. Like, you were really ready to go. Was that something where you were just like, this is what I'm doing now, or were you really just like actually about it, and then the music thing came up and you're like, hold up, let me see. Yeah, how much were your parents involved in that, and how lenient were they with you when you decided to kind of pivot?
So growing up, I was a pretty bad kid, like a terrible kid. But my brother was always like on top of his shit. And my brother ended up joining the military first because he really wanted to. He wanted to stand for his country. Well, but
Yeah.
but being a bad kid comes with not doing good in school. Any of that. And I didn't want to do community college. So it was like, dang. The only thing in my mind was military. My brother already went. Why not follow in his footsteps? And I really, really, really did not want to join. That was like the last thing I wanted to do. But in my mind, it was kind of like I accepted it. I got a buzz cut and everything, bro. I accepted it.
Whoa, yeah.
Yeah, I had my head shaved for a few months before so I could get used to the feeling of being bald.
Wow, bro.
Yeah, but I really didn't want to go. And my parents, yeah, of course, they pushed me to join the military. But as soon as I asked them for a chance with the music thing, they were pretty understanding, and which was surprising because, with Asian families, it's always about the safe choice. Like, you do this, you make your money, and that's how you're going to live. But surprisingly, my parents were understanding, and I was very appreciative of that. And so, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's cool, man. Like, even getting that, bit of leniency from the parents. Oh, it is really cool when parents are able to kind of step away from like what they're used to and just like give that chance. Let me pivot to Nick a little bit too. Like, Nick, I'm kind of curious to see, it feels like moving back to Raleigh is almost like a new start or like a new chapter, right? Like the next chapter of your career. At least it feels to me like a fresh thing for you, in a way. What is there any kind of outlook you have on this now? Like, are you here with a kind of a fresher perspective?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a fresh start. I was like kind of in that LA rat race, which was good. Like, I'm 22, I'm not supposed to be comfortable in my life yet, but like after working really hard and being in the shit for so long. I say so long. It was only a year and a half I was in LA, but I was grinding and like, you know, sending loops and trying to do what I could before that too. Now, you know, obviously I'm still working super hard every day, but the focus is more on making myself a better musician, not trying to get my name out there or being a good businessman, etc. Like I'm learning piano now, I'm learning guitar now. I'm just really taking my time with samples, learning how can I make the things that the people I admire make, and how can I be intentional about it instead of just clicking randomly in a software. No shade to people who do that. That's like, you know, it gets the job done the same. But for me, you know, I really, for my life, want to be able to intentionally create music that I hear in my head. So I'm really just focused on that. And that's the so-called chapter that I guess you speak of.
100%. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's awesome, man. That's something that, you know, being deliberate is something that I've been thinking a lot about just in general. Like, of course, like if you're trying to be too deliberate, it can kind of mess you up in certain areas because you kind of expect certain things or whatever. But, you know, being able to have more intention behind your either creative decisions or whatever, once you have the skill set to do that, that's definitely a huge level up. Talk to me a little bit about these studio sessions, like when y'all, and again, I know y'all have worked with other producers and artists, but when you guys are together, how much are you kind of like learning from each other, if that makes sense? Because I know some artists and producers keep it super separate, whereas others are kind of like, you know, the artist might be learning kind of bits and pieces of on how to make certain beats, and the producer might be picking up, you know, certain songwriting things or you know, that type of process.
I think after working together for not even that long, but just maybe after a couple of sessions, especially working on the album we're working on right now, where we're kind of telling a story about his life and his last relationship, and we're kind of sharing experiences with each other, and kind of molding together a combination of our stories to create what is the final story, or the final story of the album. We're learning, you know, about each other's life and about, you know, our principles and how we go about our relationships, how we go about coping with things and all that. So we're definitely learning about each other on a personal level through that. Songwriting, I think Eric had a very specific songwriting style before we sat down. Usually every song we write is me, him, and then my homie Jeb. Obviously, Pinnacle, you've met Jeb.
Yeah.
Love that guy.
Love Jeb, bro. Shout out to Jeb.
Yeah.
You met Jeb before Eric even met Jeb, actually.
But, okay, word.
Yeah, he met him, I guess, 2-3 months ago, September. So a little over 3 months ago when we did this first trip out here to Wilmington to work on the album, and we all work super well together. And so after a couple of those sessions, instead of that very toxic style and like in your face style that Kodoku would write with, you know, traditionally for his singles beforehand, we're attacking these songs now and hopefully for the foreseeable future from a perspective of, all right, how do we make this a good song and tell a story in a way that it's never been told before? And we usually start, I think I may have mentioned this to you before, maybe even when you came to visit in LA, that me and Jeb have that writing style of where we try to come up with the concept of the song first and the punchline of the song and work up to that. So I think I've definitely influenced him in that sense, but he can speak on, you know, how he feels about that as well.
So when I first started working, or not first started, first started working on this album with Nick and Jeb, like he said, my whole songwriting style was very toxic because that was what was popping off on TikTok, and it worked. So I decided to stick with that. But when we first started working on this album, it wasn't just, you know, obviously toxicity. There is some toxicity in this album because it's a whole storyline. But when it came to the love songs and the learning phase and all that, I was left fucking speechless. I didn't know what to say because like I've been writing just toxic things for like a minute. But yeah, working with Nick and Jeb, it's insane when you just sit in a studio session. Like when I'm just sitting here and they're writing lyrics together and thinking of concepts, Nick would just throw something out there and then Jeb would just immediately take that and I don't know.
It usually goes the other way around because we have this inside joke that Jeb said the other time where he'll just throw shit like he just said out there, and I'll take it and turn it into the final line that it
I thought
becomes.
it was the other way.
Yeah, yeah. And so what we'll
Yeah,
say
yeah.
is Jeb will be like, "Yeah, I just throw shit at the wall, nix the wall." And so now every time I do that, like he'll throw a line out and I turn it into whatever the final line is. I'll just sit here and scream, "Wall!"
Yeah, right. It's beautiful seeing Nick and Jib write together in the same room. I definitely pay attention to their thought process and all that. And when I go back home and I'm writing on my own, I try to imitate that, but it's very, very difficult to do that. But yeah, I'm still learning how to write in different styles, how to put more image, put more feeling into a single line.
And he's also the youngest and has been making music for the least time out of all of us. So obviously you're going to have growing to do.
Makes sense. Wow, that's wild. I really appreciate that you're kind of touching on this side of things, and especially talking about all the things you're learning. Because for me, at least, again, on the outside, like I haven't spoken to you yet or even seen any of the behind the scenes or the process. But from the outside looking in, I saw all those TikToks and I saw all the music you were promoting and the way that people and all these girls were reacting to it. And your music comes off as very, very confident. So now, not saying learning is it's not about confidence, but it is interesting to kind of see that you're still very much focused on growing, and even like again like kind of a maybe not a pivot, but you're kind of leveling up. You're at that next stage where you're trying to do something better, that makes more sense to you in your career. So when it came to your writing process beforehand, was it a lot of freestyling? Like with the initial, if we're talking about, let's say, that toxic era, like was it more freestyles and you were just pulling from that, or was it still you were writing a lot, or how did those songs come about?
It definitely wasn't freestyles. When the toxic lyrics around that time, when that came up, I would literally just sit in my room, close my eyes, and think of the most toxic scenario that I could possibly think of.
Yeah.
And basically like create a movie in my head and just write along that. And then when I would write these lyrics and then write these lyrics, make it into a song, as the song's going, I'd be able to see exactly what was playing in my head while I was even thinking of this idea. So it was like, yeah, it was never no freestyle. It was always very deeply thought out toxicity.
Very interesting. And were you still pulling from parts of your life, or was it quite a lot of it was like just this, created scenario in your head? Like how much were you pulling from your own kind of experiences and all that?
I wouldn't say that I'm a toxic human being or a toxic person to a woman, but I feel like a lot of people have just random toxic thoughts,
right?
I think I really took those thoughts and magnified them, made them much bigger than it really was. So yeah, I guess I did take some of it from my personal life, but it was not that intense. I just kind of over exaggerated it in the song.
For sure, that makes a lot of sense. That's really interesting. That is a very seems like a very effective way to go about creating art. Yeah. So, all right. Talk to me now about this. You guys touched on it a little bit, but I'm super interested in this upcoming project, your newer singles, and everything that's kind of went behind it. It seems like there's a lot more going on, in terms of the work behind it and all the things that you guys are doing. Like, I'm excited, and I don't even know the half of it. So kind of fill me in a little bit on that.
You want to go ahead?
Sure. So Eric texted me that he wanted to make a project after some of these singles have done well. And I remembered that there was this guy, Parker Harris in Raleigh, who had texted me and wanted to do some film work for me. He was just trying to get his name out there and whatnot. He even offered to come to LA if he was ever in the area and shoot some stuff for me out there. And he could never make it out there. But when I moved back and I knew Eric was going to work on this album with me, I was like, okay, we have to do all these sessions in person. And I'm going to text this Parker guy and I'm going to see if he can document it so we can make a couple vlogs out of it. And that turned into us deciding to document the entire process and make a documentary on this album. So we decided to make a 12-song album split up into 4 songs each. The first 4 songs are essentially the story of when he first met his girl, and all these sections are exaggerated versions of it, right? Because if it was just a normal relationship, it'd be pretty boring. But we draw from the emotions and we exaggerate it, like he said. And so the first 4 songs are the story of when he first meets his girl, when he's falling in love with his girl, all the good stuff, the honeymoon stage. Then the next 4 songs, track 5 to 9, I guess, no, 5 to 8, yeah, are when it gets toxic and the relationship starts with turmoil and whatnot. And that's really where we're all, drawing from past experiences and exaggerating those and just talking about the bad parts of a relationship. And then that final tracks 9 to 12, 4 tracks of the album are basically, okay, now that this relationship is over, it was what it was. This is what we learned from it. This is what we're going to do in the future. And yeah, hopefully we're going to be able to put together a really cool documentary, filmed by this awesome camera crew, Interval, pretty soon here. We have 8 out of 12 songs done so far, so we need to fill in some blanks here. We have a pretty good idea, I think, of the singles we're going to drop. Hopefully going to drop a single next month. But who knows what the next 4 songs we're going to make are. They could be better than the songs we've already got, and one of those becomes a single. So we'll see.
That's super dope. In general, I just love like cohesive rather albums, and just hearing that you guys have like thought through it that much, I'm really excited to hear the final product all together. Yeah, man. What do you guys do when you hit a creative block in the studio? If you do, I mean, what'd you say?
Call Jeb.
Call Jeb?
Like literally, that's the answer. We call Jeb, and it seems to work itself out.
That's incredible.
The elaborated version of that answer is if one of us isn't feeling it or 2 of us isn't feeling it, there's no chance that all 3 of us aren't, and one of us is going to be able to jumpstart it.
Right.
Yo, I fuck with that heavy, actually. For real, that is really interesting.
Like that, maybe in the future, all 3 of us could be in a creative rut and it doesn't work. But it's been several months, and with Jeb, I've known him for over a year now. It hasn't been the case to where we've just impossibly not been able to create anything good at all.
Yo, that's enough said. I mean, I'm definitely, yeah. Because I've had a few moments recently for a number of reasons, but usually I like, there's a few artists in my city that I've been working with and developing, and but what recently it's happened that we've hit a few creative blocks, and it hasn't like panned out that way. So it is really interesting, even to just get a third person involved, because usually it is just the 2 of us. That is interesting. But Jeb alone, I mean, bro, Jeb is so talented, so that's in and of itself.
I mean, hey, we can't be monogamous out here, bro. It's 2023.
Exactly. Yeah, I can't judge, bro. I don't judge. Talk to me about this camera crew and in general, just like making connections in and around your city, because up here, like, we have Toronto, we have Vancouver, but really it's Toronto that understands how to collaborate and get the music scene going within a city. There's many cities here, especially the one I'm in, that there's a ton of talent, but people aren't like connected with each other like that, or as connected. They're all in their little groups, and like people aren't as keen on working with each other. It's all very, and even though you can be like, you can have your own, aspirations, that's obviously very important, but they don't see as much of the value of collaboration as it seems that other cities have started to. Is that something you like notice in your city? Have you always had a big, collaborative spirit within your city, or is that something that's recent?
Yeah, one of the reasons I love Raleigh so much is because we've been such a supportive city as far as the music scene goes. For the most part, if you have talent, you're going to get appreciated by the other artists and producers in this city, and they're going to reach out. Uh, that being said, though, maybe it's because he was young in his music career or not as developed yet or whatever it is. I do feel like he was overlooked by the city. And I was one of the only people that didn't overlook him at first. And that's why we are here today. Like, he could have easily gotten not overlooked by other producers and whatnot and been working with them. But I feel like I don't know. I thought he was good enough to keep working with. So I just continued to work with him until it really came together.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Raleigh in general is a very supportive city, and obviously now he gets all the love in the world.
And Kodoku, from your side, again, I know we've touched a little bit already on you doing things yourself initially and then collaborating and kind of navigating that. But when it comes to the other side of things, like marketing and the skits, you said your manager, or he wasn't your manager at the time, but he'd been kind of pushing you to do something on TikTok. How much has collaborating with other people that kind of aren't directly involved in the music necessarily, how has that been? Is that something you're still looking to do? Again, with the camera crew and all this, like, and again, maybe you are hiring, like that's obviously paying people, but is that something that you've kind of increased over time, or is that something like you had dudes like ready to, help you with the social media already because you were homies, you had people, the management side? How does that work? And yeah.
When I first started out with the whole TikTok thing, it was just me making videos, in my room, and it was basically just that, and it worked because the algorithm was loving me for some reason. But then I wanted to take it to another level. So my boy Peyton, he's very good with the marketing stuff. So I let him handle a lot of that over the time. And as far as marketing, it's basically just Peyton. He's definitely helped out a lot with ideas, coming up with TikTok ideas, video ideas, content in general ideas. Peyton's he can think. Like,
yeah,
he thinks for the both of you.
Yeah, he literally has ideas 24/7, and he's able to push something out no matter what. But yeah, that's about it for the marketing. With like content and all that, until recently, I'm talking about like little like cinematic shoots or whatever, like the things that people are seeing on my Instagram now. Up until recently, I was never on any of that. I was just uploading simple pictures or like simple videos that I got made from, whoever I paid to make me a visualizer or whatever. But up until recently, I started working with Leo and the whole Interval crew. Anytime I ask for something, they always manage to make it happen. And
quickly too.
Yeah, quick as hell, bro. Like, I'll be like, yo, Leo, can we make a video? He'll be there that night. Finish the whole
It's like he gets a boost of dopamine when Eric asks him that. Like, I've seen him be on the couch before, and like me and Eric are recording a song. He's like, yo, can we make like a video to preview this? And Leo just jumps up and he's like, yep, on it.
Yeah. The fact that he's that talented, I mean, the whole Interval crew, the fact that they're that talented and they're so like motivated to do this all the time, that shit blows my mind, bro. It's like, yeah,
We got Jackson downstairs too. You didn't get to meet him. Leo, Jackson, Parker, and V. That's the big four right there.
Yep.
Dope. Yeah, man. I mean, they seem like dope dudes, with the few that I met there. But that speed thing is huge in general, like in the music industry, especially, like, how quickly things are changing now, especially like speed is getting even more important. And people kind of get like on me about that. If, I've kind of mentioned a few times, like when I talk about speed or, people kind of take me the wrong way. Cause they immediately go into this place of like, oh, it's art, it's supposed to be creative, you got to take your time. And it's like, I get that side, but at the same time, like, speed is very important. If you can do it faster, why wouldn't you? So it's
Right,
really,
right.
yeah. And it's really, I find that it's even harder. Like, for example, I'll be doing something quick, but maybe my homies or the people I'm working with aren't on the same page as me. So to have a crew like that, that's actually that motivated and ready to go is crazy.
Right. I do feel like the team you surround yourself with, uh, is probably one of the most important things when it comes to music in general. Like, we got the media crew, we got the production people, got the songwriters, and if everybody's just down to work all at once, we're all gonna move 20 times faster than somebody who has to look for a crew or like something like that. But yeah, I'm just blessed to be around these people.
Absolutely. And this question's for both of you. Is something I've been thinking about more. I always ask this question of like, what's a trait that someone can have, or like what's something that someone can do that makes you kind of not want to work with them. But kind of to expand on that, like, how selective are you, again, like when it comes to the people you surround yourself with? I know for me, I'm still figuring this out, but usually I've been in the past, at least, like kind of cutthroat, like very just, if I notice something that kind of throws me off, I'm like, you're out, because why would I waste my time? But over time that's kind of changed, and I've started to be, see the other sides of things. How does that work for you? Is that something that you have thought about or have had to deal with, where you're like, it doesn't even have to be someone you're professionally working with, but like the energy is important, your friends and whatever. Are you selective with who you keep around you in that sense? Or are you kind of more like, I don't want to say lenient, but maybe that is the right word. Like, how selective are you with the people that you have around you, whether it's professional or not?
At this point in my life, I'm very, very selective on who I hang around. I always used to just throw that saying around. You are who you hang around. But as I grew older, definitely saw that. Like, just thinking back to the past, that was definitely the case, and it still is the case today. If Nick was every time we got in the studio, if Nick was like, "Oh, I'm tired, like I'm not trying to do this right now," that would throw me off. I'd be like, well, what the fuck? But it's Nick, he's the homie. Still be around him, whatever. But like, luckily he's not. Nick is always ready to go. Always trying to make a new song idea.
I was falling asleep recording his ass in Nashville.
No way.
Yeah, because I was like, we were in country sessions with Jeb and doing all that. Like that was the reason we were there, and they were like, all right, let's bring Eric along so that we can, in our downtime, work on his album, because we're trying to get that done. So it was just probably like, I mean, people say they go through 18-hour work days. I don't believe most people do that in the music industry, but that was like maybe the one time in my life where I was really like up for 18 hours, like making music for all of it. But yeah, I definitely agree with him. Like, I'm pretty selective with the people that I keep around, just because I find myself getting pretty irritable. Like, if it's, I'm very guilty of being too much like this in the past. I think I judge people a lot, and like if people aren't like exactly like me, I used to just be like, I don't even want you around me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. I'm been less like that lately, but I am pretty selective. Like I want people to have certain morals that I hang around, and know what to do in certain situations, and we treat each other right and treat each other with respect, etc. So yeah, and you asked what's something that like would make me not want to work with somebody. The biggest thing for me is if you don't listen, or like aren't willing to listen, because like it's way too many people with ego in music, especially,
Right.
that just, I'll suggest a line or like make a change to a beat or something, and they're like, oh no, mine was better, or trust me bro, it's this way's the best. I'm tired of that.
Facts.
Yeah. And outside of music, I'd say like, I saw the difference between me hanging out with bums and me hanging out with people who want their bread, who want something for their lives. And hanging out with bums definitely made me a bum. I was a bum back then. But now, outside of music, my closest friends are friends who are willing to do anything to become successful in any way.
Right.
And yeah, some of my friends are still figuring their stuff out, and they go, hit bumps on the road, but it's understandable because I can see that you know they want to do something, they want to make a change.
Right.
But yeah, end of the day, very selective on who I hang around. I can't be around people who don't have goals.
Right.
Like, yeah, can't hang around people who don't.
When we talk about like working, especially with that 18-hour day, those long sessions that people sometimes just go crazy for, like they're trying to get in the studio, like pull all-nighters and shit. That kind of brings me to this point of, I mean, everyone has their own definition of what, like, how much work they're trying to get done, what work ethic looks like, what grinding looks like. For you guys, Nick, I know a little bit about your process because I was in LA with you and I kind of saw it, but I mean, obviously, I like your input too, but in terms of how much you're working versus like how much you're trying to relax, like what does that look like to you, or at least how do you view it? Like, what thoughts do you have on that at this point?
When I'm alone, like at home, just trying to make some music or whatever, if I'm starting to make a song and it's just not really working throughout like the middle of it or whatever, I would usually just stop or whatever. Like, just completely stop, take a break. But then that break ends up being the whole day. I
Right.
never get back. But that's why I have so many unfinished songs. But anytime I'm with Nick, all I want to do is, the whole time, all I want to do is just create, because I just love the way him and Jeb, how they make songs. And so I want to be able to do that for however long I'm with them. But yeah, once Nick moves back to Raleigh, we are lit, boy. We are lit. Because I'm going to be in that crib every day. Just
Let's go.
songs after songs after songs. And, I won't have as many unfinished songs.
I believe it, bro. I believe it. And Nick, for you, like the process, and I see that you're kind of, again, you're at that new, a new phase in your career. So again, I don't want to make it sound too serious, but it does seem like you are more focused, kind of more on the craft and like really getting, dialing in those, I don't want to say fundamentals, but really just getting those like details and those skills down. And it seems to me that might require like more patience from your end, or is it not that? Is it still a very regimented, disciplined work routine that you have?
I mean, I'm a man of routine and discipline, so I'm, the way I go about everything is discipline for sure. But I was gonna say it's a mental thing of just taking the pressure off of yourself. For me, I sit down to make a loop in the morning. I'm like, I got all day. When I, think about learning an instrument, I got the rest of my life. Like, there's people that have been playing for 10 years and are incredible, and I have another 70 years to live. If it takes me 10 years to learn guitar, then I have 60 years of playing incredible guitar.
Right.
So it's just a matter of perspective and taking the pressure off yourself. I don't have to create a million melodies. I'm happy making one loop every other day, as long as that loop is incredible. So as long as I'm taking my time, I know I'll get there.
I like that. Tell me about these, tell me about Nashville. You said Jeb was there for some country sessions. Like, what was this about?
Yeah, so I think I told you, Jeb is, as an artist, full on country now. We're going like country pop to country, or like classic country or whatever. We're working on his EP, and we're hopefully going to have Interval shoot some content for that as well. That one's got a cool story as well. It's basically me and him. I might even get primary artist credit on it. I don't know. We're still kind of deciding, because that one is basically a collection of experiences we went through together of, like, we each moved to LA in the same house. We went through like so much together, not even just like went through like trauma or nothing. We just experienced life together in North Carolina, then moving to LA, then, kind of feeling homesick, dealing with issues that may come up there, and then moving home. So it's a small 5-song EP about moving to LA, or moving. We do name LA in the tape a lot. And then missing home and then coming home, and it tells that story. And it's a combination of our shared experiences. Obviously, he's the vocalist on all of it, so I'm not on there singing or nothing. But yeah, it's basically the story of both of our experiences in that sense. So he had a potential manager that wanted to get him into some songwriting sessions for some country artists out there. Um, so we went out there to go do those. And I also had a couple friends, like I said, Jackson Free or Brody and Christian Clementi from CB30. So I also did some sessions with them and brought him along. And then we were just like, let's bring Eric along too, so that when we're not in sessions that have already been set up for us, we can continue to work on this album. Because we made three songs the first time Jeb and Eric ever met. And those three songs are just, in my opinion, some of the best songs on the album. Like, they're incredible. So we're on a roll. Let's keep it going. And so we were just working nonstop out there.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, this pivot to the country, side of things is really interesting, because I think, like, I don't want to say shortly before that, but shortly enough before that, he's like, yo, me and Jeb, whatever, like, we'd had some songs, like, I'd contributed some things for Jeb.
That song that y'all made, in my opinion, is the best non-country song ever. UCLA Girls. That song is so good. I wish,
UCLA Girls is far.
I almost want to re-record it as like a country dance hall type of vibe. I don't know. I just love it. Maybe we rewrite it or rework it. I love that song so much.
Yeah, man, me too. There's like multiple like things that we had made at that time, or like had a hand in that definitely, some of my favorite things that I've worked on. Even though it's not like we went crazy like spending all these hours. Like, it came out pretty quickly, but it was fun. Yeah, man, if y'all get any sort of spin on that, if you could get that out in any way, that would be sick. But either way, I mean, I'm just glad, I'm glad that it was done in the first place.
Yeah.
So,
country guy talking about college girls in California, it's not the craziest thing in the world.
Yeah, man, we'll see. Yeah.
When UCLA girl, you might change your mind.
I think you got it right there, actually, to be honest. I'm not a country writer by any means, but that sounds about right to me. And I was thinking this too, but he might really be the first country artist that I like consistently listen to. So I am very much looking forward to it.
Oh yeah.
All right, man. Kodoku. I want to talk a little bit. Maybe you don't have to touch too deeply on this, but you did talk about like, if you are who you surround yourself with. So these kind of, I don't want to say low points in your life, but like this idea that you were on a different path, initially, and then you kind of changed up. Was that mainly due to the people you had around you, being like your parents or your brother? Like, is that those kind of positive influences that kind of drove you away from that type of life? Or do you think that you just kind of had to experience all that in general and you were going to get here anyways, one way or another?
I mean, the whole switch up between terrible kid to somewhat decent kid was mainly my brother, my older brother. Before he left to the military, he was always on my ass talking about Eric, you got to change the way you live. Like, what are you doing right now? You're being a bum. And I would always just cuss him out, tell him you don't know what he's talking about, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Till eventually this one summer, the summer before he left, he invites me to hang out with him and his boy. And we were fishing, every single day of the summer. And just hanging out with them, it was really humbling, because back then I was such an aggressive kid, always trying to fight, always trying to say something,
right?
Trying to be the tough guy. But hanging out with my older brother and his boy Zach, it was very humbling, because they didn't care if I wanted to be tough or what. They're still gonna treat me like, what they see me as, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was definitely the switch up. And then also, right when my brother left to the military, one of the last things he said was, now you're the man of the house. My dad was obviously still living with us, but
right.
He's like, you're the man of the house. Take care of your sisters, take care of your mom, all that. And that really him saying that really flipped the switch in my mind, where I was like, all right, got to get my shit together. Around this time was when I was introduced to the fact that I was going to join the military. So, all right, I'm going to get my shit together, get my body right, get my grades right, get my money right, That's when I shaved my head.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the whole purpose behind me shaving my head was because my hair was my prized possession.
Ah, I see.
So if I were to shave my head, I would have no choice but to upgrade in every other way than just my appearance.
Right.
My facial, this appearance right here. So I had to work on my body, get everything up, and it worked, and it worked pretty damn quick because I was
That's
just
amazing.
so motivated to do that. But yeah, that whole switch up was mainly, I'd say, my brother.
Very interesting, man. And how old were you at that time? Like around that time that switch happened or started?
I think I was around 17 years old.
And how old are you now?
I'm 19.
Very cool. All right. Performances. I see like you've had some pictures up that of performances, but I don't want to assume too much. Like how did that first performance come about? Is that something that you were really looking forward to, or tell me your experience with performances in general?
When it comes to performing, a lot of the times I have people reach out to me to perform at their event, and I love doing that because it's in my hometown. I can get all my people out there, and it's just performing is probably my favorite thing about being an artist. My last performance, I'd say, was my best. It was definitely, the energy was there. That was the first time I played with a full live band, and we rocked that shit out.
Fire.
But yeah, performing with a DJ and performing with a band was definitely two different experiences. Definitely like performing with a band better. It just brings that live, raw feeling out.
I love that. That's really dope.
But yeah, when I perform though, it's never about my songs. I never focus on my songs. Like, yeah, I'm supposed to, perform my songs, but it's all about the crowd. Like, my performances are 100% about the crowd, and I just want everybody in that crowd to be able to leave and say that, Kodoku's performance was probably one of the most fun performances ever. And I'm all about crowd interaction. One of the first times I ever performed, I performed at this thing called Peak City.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was one of the first times you ever performed. I was there for that.
Yeah. And I remember I performed like, I was rewatching the videos of me performing. I was so stiff and all that. But I took this video of Abel Maasho rehearsing. Like, it's like a 7-second video, and he hits this like this little dance. And I'm like, yo, this guy's smooth with it. What? Yeah, but yeah, he would like dance around on stage and all that, and the crowd was really fucking with him. And ever since that, I would always like. That's when I realized, like, yo, this is all about the crowd. Like, I'm going to figure out some way to make the crowd have as much fun as possible. And that's what I do. That's what I do now. I perform again at NC State on the 31st. And,
dope.
I'm not sure what the crowd's going to be like there or what type of vibe it's going to be. But yeah, I'm going to just rock out with my band, to be honest. But yeah, I'd definitely love to throw just a Kodoku, just me, myself, just a Kodoku show pretty soon, because that would be sick as fuck.
That would be. The live band that you're talking about, is that like, did you rehearse a lot with those guys, or how quick of a turnaround is that when you guys have to perform together?
I pulled this band together within like a week. And I was like, all right, we're going to rehearse. We ended up rehearsing like 3 times before our first performance together.
Oh.
And everybody was just stupid talented.
Wow.
So it all just kind of worked out.
And had those guys been working together before? Or it was like you got the individual part?
Just individual people. Yeah.
I see.
rehearsing was a crazy experience because like just seeing everybody like when they like make eye contact with each other and they barely even know each other, you know,
Uh-huh.
and making eye contact with each other, cueing each other in, and just being able to just come together so smoothly. It was a crazy experience.
Wow. What advice would you give to an artist like that has started to kind of, get a little bit of traction, like they just really want to perform? What are some steps they can take to make sure that they're, obviously you learn by experience, but what are some kind of key things you would give to an artist that was trying to get their first couple performances out the way?
Um, I'd say that I feel like too many beginners are focused on the crowd, like having a big crowd,
Hmm.
and I don't think that's the way to go at all. Uh, like if you're first starting out, just try to look for places where you can perform anywhere. Just being in front of even 5 people and being able to rock out and move your body and sing or rap or whatever. To do that confidently in front of 5 people, just
Hmm.
having that one little one little moment of confidence can lead to having such a crazy stage presence, and then eventually lead to performing in front of bigger crowds or whatever. But yeah, I definitely say as a smaller artist, reach out to different people or events or whatever, just to perform, maybe even just a song or two. It's always good just getting that practice and getting your like seeing video after you perform, just being able to fix certain little things. It's
Hmm.
all trial and error.
Hmm. And one thing I definitely want to ask you is, what are you? Because we've talked a bit about your past, we've talked a little bit about the start of your career, talked a little bit about the album that you have dropping, the project that you have dropping. What do you have any like future goals, like big vision wise, or are you kind of? Because I know some people don't like to think too far. Like I've heard some people recently say that if they think too far ahead, it's like almost unrealistic because things change, all the time. So,
Right.
but is there kind of a bigger vision or something bigger you have in mind for yourself at the moment?
The vision is to perform in a sold out arena. That's whenever I think of my music future, that's basically the only image that pops up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that if I keep that vision in my head and I keep working towards that, it's gonna happen one day. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
shit does happen. Life throws shit at you and you don't know what to do. But I've had life throw a lot of bullshit at me. But
Mm-hmm.
it's always the most important thing would be to, take whatever life's throwing at you, but move around it. Still stick with your vision. Like stick to your vision. You have to. If
Mm-hmm.
you want it bad, like you have no other choice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I want to ask you guys, again, we've touched on the songwriting thing already, but I do want to ask, like, I have so many artists that are trying or they want to get better at songwriting and the writing in their songs. Like, of course, again, like as they do more reps, they'll get better. But I am curious, like, is there any specific resources or people that y'all look up to in that regard? Or is it, I know you guys work off each other now, but if you're, writing a song alone, let's say, or anything along those lines, like is there any techniques or things that you kind of employ to try and get the ball rolling, or even as you're almost done, like tweaks you're making? What kind of things are you looking for, focusing on in that respect?
Well, like I was saying earlier, the little technique or whatever that we use, coming from starting with the concept,
Right.
really makes it easier, because the rest of the entire session we're just trying to make everything make sense on paper and work up to the final point. We have an end goal in mind. Um, that that became easier when me and Jeb started randomly texting each other ideas for concepts throughout the day. So now whenever we're in a session, pull up our text, search the word concept, and just rattle off the list and see which one hits. As
Beautiful.
far as people we look up to, speaking for me and Jeb at least, the biggest influence in our writing right now, with country, but also not with country, because his lyrics are just, in my opinion, so amazing, is Ernest Keith Smith, or just Ernest is his artist name. He did a song with Morgan Wallen not too long ago called Flower Shops that most people that know who he is probably would know him from that. But if we dove into his discography, and we just really love all the concepts and the wordplay and how he goes about saying stuff. So I try to take stuff from him and artists like him that to make certain concepts less generic, maybe.
I've never really looked up to anybody when it comes to writing until recently when I was working with Nick and Jeb.
Right.
I look up to Nick and Jeb when it comes to writing. That's about it. Yeah.
Fire. And like, even in your own process, like, again, I know we touched on like, okay, you draw from your experiences and you can exaggerate those or kind of dive into them even more and see them out. In terms of like like the specific words that you're using, you know, are these things you've kind of picked up from songs along the way that you've been listening to? Like, who are your influences when it comes to actual, like, what kind of music do you like? You know, like, what kind of artists are you listening to? And are they kind of not directly, but indirectly maybe influencing your style? Or is this totally like, you know, when you're writing, it's totally your own, like, you're trying to figure out your own way through it?
Right. So I'd say that the music I listen to at the moment is pretty different from the music I'm recording. I like to listen to very slow and sad songs. It just, you know, brings me peace. But yeah, with the songs that I'm making,
the way I would best go about explaining it is I'll have like a loop or a beat, whatever we're writing to, and there will be an artist maybe that's not Kodoku that it reminds me of. So like, for example, the song we're writing like today, right now, the loop reminded me of like Chosen by Blast. So in my head, I'm like, okay, let's write this song as if Blast or Blast's songwriters were writing a song for Kodoku.
Interesting.
And I try to take elements from that perspective of it.
That's really cool. And the reason I'm asking you that, Kodoku, is really because, like, especially with those earlier songs, like the lyrics were so, they were like, I hadn't heard a lot of these types of lyrics on TikTok, or even just people being that confident, being like, yeah, this is what's up. Like, you were very just upfront with it. You didn't try and like, you know, because I see some artists now, like, they're almost there, like they're trying to say something, but they're almost shying away from saying it. And, you know, with your stuff, I see kind of the opposite of that.
I'd say with that, I think like you said, the artists that are like almost there but not quite hitting the point, I think it's very important to be as specific as possible when writing lyrics. Yeah, it's hard to be as specific as possible and turn it into a line, but yeah, with that whole toxic stuff that I was doing,
right,
I noticed that the people were more attracted to the song when I was able to like literally say word for word what was going on in the situation, or like word for word what that girl said or what I said or whatever.
Something that we noticed, like I think is a big red flag in like a songwriting session, for example, is, and a phrase that's used too much is people saying like, oh, that's good enough, or that works. Like, we never say that. If someone says that, we're like, no. It's like, I'll throw a line out there, and then I'll throw it out there as a disclaimer, like, this is not the final line. This is my idea for the line. How can we make this what we all want it to be?
Right.
Yo, that's huge.
That boy Nick never settles for no mid shit. It has to be on point.
That's huge. That in itself is a huge gem right there, because I have been in multiple sessions where that's been the case, and I've also let that happen, been like, yeah, it's good for now, you know, and then move on, and no,
and then you don't come back to it.
Exactly.
Or like, oh, it's just one line in the verse. The listener's not going to think about it that much.
Right.
Well, okay, maybe that's the case, but also like, you're competing with every other artist that says that. You want to try and stand out. One way you can stand out is by making sure that, you know, those little nuances and ear candy and attention to detail is there.
When it comes to song arrangement, maybe this is more for Nick, but Kodoku too, like whatever, you know, whoever kind of has insight on it. But song arrangement, I feel like, is a really, really key thing, especially nowadays. Is that something like how deliberate are you with song arrangement, or are you kind of just, do you go with kind of the, I don't want to say generic formulas, but formulas that are kind of, to be tested and true, or do you kind of play around with arrangement and try to make it a little bit different and abstract?
I'd say that when I write music alone, like in my bedroom, I definitely try to make it as different as possible. Like fucking throw, instead of a hook or a verse as the beginning, throw a pre-hook as the first thing, and kill it down, go into the first verse, and then bring the pre-hook back, but make it so much more bigger, and then make the big hook or whatever. But yeah, I definitely like with that. And then I come to work with Nick. A lot of that definitely has a lot of I don't know. When me and Nick work, it's just we just go along with the vibe.
I see.
Of the song. It's like once we're done writing a verse or whatever we think it's gonna be, I don't know, we switch things around a lot during the session. Like, no, this is gonna be the hook, this is gonna be the verse.
Yeah, there's definitely no set arrangement when we start. And so we'll typically have a verse done and a hook done. And then when we sit down to actually record the song, we're just going to be like, okay, what sounds better first? Like, especially we'll look at like the first line of the hook or the first line of the verse and be like, what catches the listener's ear more? Because the first thing that they hear is the most important.
I like that. Now I'm just going to get maybe some quick fire questions if they end up being this way. But one of the main things is to just talk to me, because people get interested in this. I get interested in this. What kind of equipment y'all use? What VSTs you've been using recently that you're kind of into, whether it's for vocals or whatever? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Recently, I got a Prophet Rev 2 that I've been using a lot right here. And then I also bought an acoustic guitar. It's an Orangewood Oliver M. And I love learning that thing and piecing together loops on it right now. As far as like VSTs and plugins go, Guitar Rig, even not for guitar, just like on anything to get like a little saturation, or like even their like retro color plugin within Guitar Rig is really cool too. I've been using that a lot. Using Pro R in weird little ways to get cool vocal effects to make them sound like they're in the back of the room, or like they're hollowed out and things like that. I've been doing that. And pretty much any tape saturation plugin that makes a song or a loop sound like it wasn't made in 2023. Yeah, I'm all over that. Eric, he doesn't really even mix his own stuff anymore, I don't think. So I'm not sure he knows about like much VSTs and whatnot. But I do know, we'll ask him when he comes back. He got a mic a couple months ago that a company sent him for free that he really likes a lot.
Yeah, I'll definitely ask him.
We like plug it into my interface, and basically when I'm not recording, when I'm playing something back, we got to like turn the phantom power off, and so that it's not like picking up the sound into the mic and everything's coming back. So every time I turn the phantom power off, his mic turns off, and when I turn it back on, it has to load up. And we've never seen a mic do that before, so we always tease him for that. Because like I want to press it and then just be like, all right, record. But then we're like, no, his mic has to load, bro. Wait for his mic to load.
That's pretty funny. I've never seen that either. That's interesting.
Yeah.
We were just talking equipment and stuff, and like VSTs and all that. Got a little specific, but in terms of the equipment you use, like what'd you start with mic wise? It's just I get interested, people get interested, but Nick also said you got a new mic recently, so tell me a little bit about that too.
I was mainly first recording with just a Scarlett mic. I got like a whole set with my interface, the mic, and the headphones that my dad bought me. And that's what I kind of first started with, and I recorded with that for a few years. And then I switched over to the SM7B, which was very nice, But then this company, Lewitt, they sent me one of their newer mics and told me to try it out. And so I tried it out, and you can adjust I don't know, the way you can like adjust the low and high frequencies on that mic is very cool, very nice. So yeah, that's what I'm recording with now. I've had the same JBL monitors since I ever first started music. I still use those. I still use my Scarlett headphones.
Yeah.
I need to upgrade my headphones. Like, they're ripping up. Those are my first ever recording headphones I've ever had. But yeah, that's what I use. Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I mean, we touched on a lot of what I wanted to, and I feel like we'll bring people value. But is there anything you guys wanted to touch on or get into? Because I can totally do that too.
I'm trying to touch on you.
Pause. I have to write that time now because this. All right. Fuck God. I'm gonna just compile all those moments from this podcast, put them into one, and just that'll be it.
The blooper. That's good content.
It is good content for me. But yeah, man.
No. I wouldn't say there's really anything more to touch on.
But
A message to all the artists or producers who are first starting out. Or I'll say a message to the artists. Hopefully Nick says a message to all the producers.
I bet.
Consistency beats everything. You know, from making shit music to the music I'm making now, none of that would have happened if I stopped being consistent. It's always through every single session that I'm in, there's always one little thing that I learn. And if you combine all those sessions together, it's like a whole textbook of what I learned, you know? So yeah, consistency will be everything. Even when, you know, numbers are looking low or whatever, don't let that shit fucking, you know, drag you down. Like, that just means you got to work harder, you know? But yeah, that's my message to all the artists who are trying to make it.
I appreciate that heavy.
Trying to
yeah, no. Now you got to send a message to the producers, bro.
I'm not gonna send a message to the producers because y'all not gonna listen anyways. But I'll say I've got for the people that do want to listen or think I have some value to add possibly to their lives or careers. I'm starting a YouTube channel this year. Interval's shooting a lot of content for me. We've already got the first video edited. We're just trying to get the thumbnail made right now. The video is going to be, in my opinion, the best ways to go about making money as a producer in 2023. Hopefully, I'm going to have some more tips like that and cook up videos and whatnot, professionally edited and shot by them. So yeah, hopefully it'll be some good content this year that if you think you can learn some value from me, you'll be able to go there. And I'll my socials, I'm sure Pinnacle's going to like put them up or something. But yeah, at Nick Nash Music, and on Twitter, it's at Nick Nash Music _. So whenever I launch that YouTube channel, you'll be able to find it through those sources.
Absolutely. And I do want to say, I'm excited for that content, bro. Being shot by Interval, that like producer content and being that type of quality, and from you, bro, that people need to go check that out when it comes out.
I'll send you a private link to it, by the way.
Please do. I would love that. And the consistency message is huge. I preach that a lot all the time, and like that's something that I really stand by. So I appreciate that an actual artist is saying it, because when it comes from me, it's, you know, it's a producer, I get it, but like they need to hear it from somebody that's actually been through that as an artist, done it, and seen the results. So I really do appreciate that. If you want to talk about your you know, latest single, if you want to talk about any upcoming stuff and plug yourself, you go ahead right now.
Word. I'm planning on releasing a single within the next month or so. I'm still planning that out, figuring out what I'm gonna do for the marketing or whatever. We have and this single is from the upcoming album. So yeah, and with the album comes a documentary. So everybody should be very fucking excited for that, because this documentary is going to show you all the sides of us.
Beautiful.
But yeah, follow me on the gram, KOD.OKU, and subscribe to my YouTube. I don't have any music videos up, but I definitely will have a good amount of music videos for this album. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate this. Heavy.
Hell yeah, bro.
No worries.
Hell yeah. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.